Well, my dear students, it is time to wrap up this chapter. The reason why I put so much time is because these are the definitions which are covered in the act. Attempt any answer like characteristics, essentials, what are the provisions relating to a particular concept. You have to start with a definition. So it is very important for you to know the definition and then mention the provision. So that is why we put a lot of effort in understanding these definitions in detail. All right. Now we are going to finish the chapter today, but before that, let us revise what was covered in the previous session. So I discussed the concept of net worth, which was nothing but the value of assets owned minus the amount of liabilities owed. So we have the paid up share capital, reserves, securities premium, profit and loss account. From that, we reduce accumulated losses, deferred expenses, miscellaneous expenses to the extent not written off. Officer, it includes a director, manager, KMP, or any person in accordance with whose directions, instructions, advice the board is accustomed to act. Here, I had given you an example of Guilford Motor Company versus Horney. Then we covered the meaning of officer in default. So, who is an officer in default? Now, just because you're an officer of the company, that does not mean that you will be held liable in case something goes wrong. Only the one who has knowingly either given his consent or participated or given support, only that person will be liable. So, out of these officers, only the ones who know uh, if something is going wrong, only they will be held liable. That person is officer in default. So we have the whole time director KMP. If you don't have any KMP, then the director who was specified by the board and they agree that yes, you can consider as officer in default in case something goes wrong. We are liable because we are managing the company. If nothing is specified, then all directors will be liable. Then we have, these were the clauses. Then we have various other officers who may be held liable. In accordance with whose directions, instructions, advice the board is accustomed to act. Then every director who knowingly, he participates, he gives his consent. In case of issue of shares or transfer, then share transfer agent, your registrars, they will be liable. One person company has minimum one, maximum also one as member. Ordinary and special resolution, we discussed. For ordinary, you need approval of majority, and for special, you need that the votes cast in favor must be 3 times equal to or more than 3 times the vote cast against. Then we discuss the definition of promoter, but as I mentioned, we are going to discuss this in detail when we come to the chapter incorporation of company. Prospectus also we will discuss when we come to the chapter prospectus and allotment. I think that was more or less what we discussed. Yes, a lot of writing today also. Today we will discuss the clauses that begin with the letter R, S, T, and we will finish the chapter. Let us first go through the story for learning the sections. So these are the clauses that begin with the letter R. So we have clause 73 to 78, recognized stock exchange, registrar of company, registrar related party, relative, and remuneration. So the story is something like this. Where should we list our shares? Because up till now, we have appointed the directors, the officers. We have studied about the shares, various kind of capital. Where should we list these shares? Of course, you must list them in a recognized stock exchange. All right. But before that, we need to check whether the name of the company appears in the register of companies and inform the ROC also about the listing. See, it's a very logical flow. You can take your related party or relative to visit the stock exchange. They will like it and you won't have to pay them any remuneration. All right, so it's an easy story, an interesting one. Please pause the video and write this. Okay. Then these are clauses that begin with the letter S. In fact, 80 to 83, they are missing. So we need to find them. So these are the various clauses that begin with the letter S. So clause 80 to 83, they are missing. We need money to find them. We may have to sell our shares in order to arrange for funds. Yes, so they are missing. We need money so that we can find them. We may have to sell our shares in order to arrange for funds. But we are a small company. We don't have that much subscribed capital also. I have an idea. Let's sell. We can sell our subsidiary companies sweat equity shares and we can arrange for money. Okay. So these are the clauses. And we can sell our shares, but we are a small company. We don't have that much subscribed capital. We can sell our subsidiary companies sweat equity shares. Okay. So please write this. Done. All right. Now, these are clauses that begin with the letter T. So we have these three clauses and there are other clauses also. They are not very important for exam. So even if you don't memorize them, it's fine. But nowadays, we cannot trust the institute. They ask questions from any nook and corner of the book. So it is important that we study everything, right? Okay, so let us now continue our discussion. Let us discuss the clauses that begin with the letter R. Clause 73, recognized stock exchange, is not in your syllabus. Register of companies. So as soon as a company is incorporated, the name is mentioned in the register. So it's nothing but a record which is kept by the ROC that these are the companies which are registered under me. It means the register of the companies highlight maintained by the registrar so that he knows that these are the companies registered under my hand. It may be maintained on paper or in electronic mode. Now, this answers our question, who maintains it? Who maintains the register? ROC. How is it maintained? Either in paper or electronic mode. Okay. So what is it? It is a register of companies. All right. If you want, you can write what it is. What is it? It is a register which gives all information about the companies. Who maintains it? ROC. How is it maintained? Either in paper or electronic mode. Who is a registrar? So, registrar is actually the person who is in charge of incorporating new companies as well as managing the running of existing company. Okay. So, we approach the registrar under two circumstances. One is when we need to incorporate a company. Okay. So, they also handle incorporation of new companies and they also help in running, or I can write over here, they supervise the running of existing company. Man, do they participate? No. They don't participate. They just say file this document, file that document, file this return, so that they know everything is going well in the company. So whenever the word registrar is mentioned in the act, it includes registrar, additional registrar, joint registrar, deputy registrar, assistant registrar. Okay, so these are different positions in the hierarchy. So we have registrar, then you have additional registrar, joint registrar, deputy. So these are hierarchies. Having the duty of registering companies and discharging various functions under this act. So we make the companies accountable. You have to file these documents with the ROC. So we know that everything is going well in the company. One very important concept of related party. Ma'am, will this be asked in the exam? I don't think so. But is it important for case-based? Yes. from case-based. I don't think a theory question will be asked, but yes, a case-based question can be asked. So what I'll do is, there is a question from my compiler. We will also discuss that question, and few points here and there. I feel you will be able to understand that better when we discuss the question. So I'll clear that concept when we actually discuss the concept while solving the question. Okay? So we'll do one question on the compiler also. Now, who is a related party? Before I read the definition, let us understand why is this concept introduced. See, you should understand the logic behind it. Like, why? What is the use of defining a related party? Like, what are related party transactions? Yes? Now, this is not going to be asked in the exam. That is why I have made notes for you, so that we can discuss and you can quickly copy. But this will not be asked in the exam. Now, what exactly is a related party transaction? Now, let's say, for example, that there is a company. Okay. Now, please note, students, I am not discussing who my related party is, because that is defined over here. So you will come to know that these people are related party. But why is the related party transaction important? You want to report these transactions. That is why you're defining who a related party is. Because these transactions will be entered with the related party. You're getting the logic? Because these transactions are entered with a related party, we will report them. So this we will cover in the definition. Now I'm just discussing about what is this transaction. There is a company, and it sells the goods to outsiders at 100 rupees per unit. Director is a related party. Director's relative is a related party. Okay. So we sold the goods to the director and his relatives at 80 rupees per unit. Don't you think it is unfair? You are getting 100 rupees from outsiders. The company, they are getting 100 rupees from outsiders, whereas they are getting only 80 rupees from the director or related party. Why this? See, just because they are connected to you, you are making a transaction more advantageous to the outsider and less advantageous to the company. And is it possible that because they are directors, we are giving them some discount? See, I totally agree that is possible. But then you will have to justify to the members why you are entering into transaction with them for 80 rupees. So if the members agree that, like, yeah, we are okay because they are like one of us, you can give them at a discount. So if the members agree, this will be allowed. Otherwise not. So from outsiders, you are earning good 100 rupees. But because they are related party, you are giving them more advantage and the company is getting only 80 rupees. Such transactions have to be scrutinized. Students, please note that related party transactions are allowed, provided they are at arm's length. Ma'am, what is arm's length? Arm's length means you are selling the goods at the same price to the related party that you are charging from the outsiders. What is arm's length transaction? If I am charging the outsiders 100 rupees, I am charging the related party also 100 rupees. Then this is an arm's length transaction. What is it called? Arm's length. So if I am taking 100 rupees per unit from them, the same price that I am charging outsider, this is an arm's length transaction. This is valid. It is allowed. Okay, this is valid even though it is with the related party. So related party transaction is an arrangement between two parties that have a pre-existing business relation. And what does it mean? The director already has a pre-existing business relation. He's a director. And I am entering into an arrangement with him. That's a related party transaction. Did you understand? I already have a pre-existing business relation with my director. Okay, he's already my director. Then I enter into an arrangement or a transaction. Okay, so that is a related party transaction. What are Why are these related party transactions scrutinized? Okay. Why are they scrutinized? See, related party, they get favored treatment in terms of pricing, or we may give them more credit period than what we are giving to outsiders. This may affect the profit and loss or the financial position of the company. See, we are earning 100 rupees from outsiders, whereas we are getting only 80 rupees from the related party. You are getting less money. It's like a loss. However, concern arises only when the transactions are beneficial to the related party and detrimental to the other stakeholders, like your shareholders, company, government, etc. They are stakeholders. Therefore, transparency is essential and specific compliances with respect to related party transactions are imposed. Okay, so because we want transparency, that is why we are asking for disclosures. Concern will arise only when the transactions are beneficial to the related party and detrimental to the company. But if it is at arm's length, then they are valid. If you want, you can just pause the video and copy this. Please note, this will not be asked in the exam. Copy the example. Okay. Now let us understand who are the related parties as far as the company is concerned. So with reference to a company. Okay. To simplify this, I have a small chart for you. So why are the related parties defined? Because it is very easy to do scams with them. Okay. Let's not get into the details because it is not in our syllabus. Just understand who my related parties are. But I know you are a curious lot. You want to know what kind of scams. So let's say that I told the director of another company that, listen, we have good investment in you. So you'll have to do what we say. We want to show inflated sales. We will sell the goods to you. Our sales will increase. In this financial year, I have shown good sale, good profit. In the next year, you return those goods to me. I will show sales return and my profit will become normal, what it should have been. So manipulation of transaction, that is possible with these related party because they are related to us. They will do whatever we say. See, an outsider will question you. He is related to you. He will not question, he will help you. So scams are possible. Now, in relation to a company, okay, in relation to a company, director and his relative will be considered as related party. Their transactions will be scrutinized. Key managerial personnel and relative is my related party. Now, a firm in which director or manager or their relative is a partner, that firm is my related party. So students, please note that the things that I have written in box, they are related party. Okay, this is how you will read the chart. The ones which I have highlighted, they are related parties. Now, the director or manager or their relative is a partner in the firm. Now, how to read this? Company's director or manager or their relative is a partner in the firm. Therefore, firm is my related party. Think logically. If the company wants to enter into any transaction with the firm to commit fraud, it is so easy. Why? Because the company's director or their manager is a partner over there. So committing fraud with the firm becomes very easy. Manipulation becomes very easy. So I may enter into transactions which may favor only one party. So it's very much possible. A private company in which the director or manager of the company or their relative is a member or a director. So I am a company, okay? My director, okay, think from the point of view of company. Director or manager or the relative of the company is a member or a director in a private company, then that private company is my related party. Okay. So director or manager or their relative of the company, they are either member or director, then that private company is my related party. Company's director or manager. Okay. My company's director or manager is a director in this public company. So that public company is my related party. Company and this public company, they have the same director. They both are related party. So my director or manager is a director in this public company. That public company is my related party. Okay, there is one more requirement, and the director manager along with his relative holds more than 2% of the paid up share capital of that public company. Okay, so this is a dual requirement. So public company in which the director or manager is a director, and okay, both should comply. See, when you hold more than 2%, only then you will be able to control the management. If I own only 0.1%, will the company listen to the director? No, you are only 0.1% shareholder. Why should we listen to you? Why should we go ahead with this manipulation? So only when the director or manager owns substantial part in the company, they can influence the company. Yes. So the director or manager of my company is a director in a public company, and he along with his relative may own more than 2% of the paid up share capital of such public company, then that public company is my related party. Here you may have a doubt, ma'am, what if the director alone owns more than 2%? Even then, public company is a related party. Okay. So the director or manager may hold more than 2% either individually or along with relative. So even though he is holding individually, it can still be a related party. Please pause the video and write this. Think from the point of view of company. Any body corporate whose board of director, managing director or manager acts with the advice, direction, instructions of the director or manager of the company. So my company has a director with whose advice this body corporate acts. So this body corporate is my related party. Any person on whose advice, direction, instruction my director acts. What is the difference? In this case, director of the company is advising and then the body corporate is acting accordingly. In the second scenario, the director manager of my company is acting at the direction of some outsider. Did you get the difference? Here we are giving advice, and here somebody else is giving advice to the director or manager of my company, and we are acting accordingly. That person is our related party because we are affected by his advice. We follow his advice. So they are my related party. But here we exclude the persons who give advice in professional capacity. Like we go to a chartered accountant, we go to a company secretary, we go to an advocate. It is their job to give us advice. They are not our related party. Are you getting me? So here the director or manager of the company is giving advice. Here we are taking advice. They are our related party. Any other person prescribed. Okay, now this is very important. I'll keep this example. Okay, now I am a company My holding subsidiary associate is my related party. Okay, my holding, my subsidiary, my associate is my related party. Subsidiary of the holding, this talks about fellow subsidiary. Okay, so fellow subsidiary means a company has H company, this is related party. For a company, my holding, my subsidiary, my associate is related party. So this is connected to point A. I'll just mention here. You can write it later. This is connected to point B. Subsidiary of the holding company. Now, company has two subsidiaries, S1 and S2. Company and subsidiary 1, they are related party. Company and subsidiary 2, they are related party. Ma'am, how? It is mentioned here. A company and its subsidiary, they are related party. Yes. So company and S1, company and S2, they are related party. However, subsidiary of holding means fellow subsidiary, which says S1 and S2 are also related party. Okay. So this actually is the point B. Subsidiary of the holding. So company and S1, company and S2, S1 and S2, they are all related party. Investing company or venturer of the company. Okay, investing company or venturer of the company. Now pay attention. I have an example here. X Limited has invested more than 20% of the total voting power. Ma'am, we didn't understand. Now, X Limited has invested so much money that they are getting more than 20% of the total voting power in Y Limited. Yes, we had studied Y is the associate of X. Therefore, X is considered as the related party of Y. I have a note in my textbook. We will go to that note also. So what was my example that I had taken? Your X has invested, right? Oh. X Limited has invested more than 20% of the voting power in Y Limited. So X Limited is the related party because it is the investing company. It is the related party of Y Limited. You can also write over here, this is the investing company. Okay, now read this note while keeping this example in mind. For the purpose of this clause, the investing company or the venturer is also investing only. So the investing company in my example, X Limited, is a body corporate, okay, whose investment in the company, Y Limited, would result the company, Y Limited, in becoming an associate. All right. So because of this investment, Y Limited has now become the associate of X Limited. Did you understand the meaning? Let's do it once again. The investing company, X, is a body corporate whose investment in the company, Y, would result in this company becoming the associate. Did you understand the note? Okay. This exemption I will discuss when we discuss the compiler question. Okay, I will discuss it when we discuss the compiler question. There is a note as per rule 3, a director or KMP or his relative shall also be deemed to be a related party, okay, of the holding company. So a director, let's write it. a director other than independent. Independent is not connected to the company. He is not in whole-time employment of the company. He has no uh, interest in the company. He doesn't get any salary. He's not a shareholder. He's totally away from the company. That is why he's independent. So director other than independent or KMP or relative. Director or KMP of holding company or their relative. So director or KMP of the holding company or their relative with reference to a company shall be deemed to be related party. We studied this. Yes. This was the relation which we established here. So I am a company which is either holding subsidiary or associate. So yes, the director or KMP of the holding is also our related party. So I may be either a subsidiary company, I may be an associate company. Okay. So in this case, the director or KMP of the holding and their relative are also related parties. That is what they want to say. Done writing? Write all this. Okay. So I have covered all this in the note. Yes, everything is covered, but I have done it uh, very properly with colors and also it is easy for us to remember. Please pause the video and write all this. You can easily convert the chart into sentence form. Done? This I will cover when I cover the question. So that was related party. Relative we will discuss in chapter 2. Remuneration, not important for exam. It is nothing but the salary. Okay, money or equivalent paid to any, let's not write salary. It is any money plus the perquisites, okay, perks. Not important. Schedule, we don't have it in our syllabus. Okay. Share means the share in the share capital. We discussed this earlier when I was discussing the introduction of Companies Act. It also includes stock. We will cover this in detail when we discuss the chapter share capital and share capital. But to just give you an example, share is expressed in numbers, whole number. Like 5 shares, 10 shares, 50 shares, 10,000 shares. Whereas stock is expressed in amount, rupees. Share can be sold in whole numbers. Whereas stock can be sold in any denomination, like even fractional, because it is expressed in amount. So let's say that I have stocks of 5 lakhs, I can sell stocks of 1,33,419. Okay, when I convert this into share, it comes in fraction, but I'm not concerned because stock is expressed in amount, rupees. Whereas shares is always expressed in numbers. So I can sell in numbers only, like 5, 10, whole numbers. Yes. So what exactly is stock? It is nothing but accumulation of shares, okay, of one company only. I cannot accumulate shares of one company and other company. Subscribed capital means the capital which we have subscribed. It means it has been accepted This is nothing but acceptance. Only after this, a contract is made. Sweat equity, again, we are going to discuss this in detail in the chapter shares and share capital. So it doesn't make any sense in me, teaching now and then later on I will give all the details. I don't want to do that. Sweat equity are basically shares given to reward the other party. Like, you have put in a lot of effort for my company. I would like to reward you for your sweat, for the effort that you have taken. Yes. So now let's see, for example, that there is a scientist. He has invented a medicine and he got it patented. Okay. He sold the patent to a pharma company. Now, the pharma company says that we don't have so much money to compensate you for the patent, but we will give you shares of the company. Once we start manufacturing, we will earn a lot of profit. Share price will increase. So these shares, we will give it to you in exchange for your patent. So this is consideration other than cash. So the company has not got cash against those shares. They have got the patent. So scientist has given the patent and he has got shares. Once the share price increases, he will sell it, and whatever is the difference, that is his remuneration for the patent. Yes. So here you are not getting any money. You are just rewarding the other person for the effort, for something that will add value to the company. These are equity shares, of course, because we are discussing about sweat equity. So these are equity shares which are issued by a company to whom? To the directors or employees. Okay, so to whom it is issued? It is issued to the directors or employees. How is it issued? Either at discount of a consideration other than cash. So how? Why is it issued? Because they have given their know-how, intellectual property rights, value addition, etc. So for this, we want to compensate them. Why? They have given us technical know-how, intellectual property right like patent. That is why we want to compensate them. So that is sweat equity. We are also going to discuss this in detail along with the provisions given under section 54. Then we have the concept of total voting power. Assuming that each and every member of the company votes, what is the total voting power? So total voting power means the total number of votes which may be cast. Because see, not everybody comes and attends the meeting, but we are assuming a scenario where what if everybody votes? Okay. So the total number of votes which may be cast at a poll in the meeting, that's a method of voting. If all the members or their proxies are present and they vote at the meeting. So assuming that every member is present, either in person or proxy, and they vote. So that determines my total voting power. Next, we have the tribunal, that is the National Company Law Tribunal. It is a quasi-judicial body. Quasi means it's just like a court. It's a quasi-judicial body. It means it is just like a court. If all these matters, they go before the normal courts, don't you think a lot of time will be wasted? So instead of going to the regular courts, we say that you go to the NCLT. If you're not happy with the decision, then you can go to High Court or Supreme Court. But these corporate related matters are first solved by the NCLT. Turnover, this is the gross amount. Yes, the gross amount of revenue. This revenue may be earned either by sale of goods, services, or both. So the gross word is important. It's the gross amount that we earn from the sale or distribution of either goods, services, or both. This is earned by the company during one financial year. So turnover is calculated for a financial year. Never asked in the exam. Unlimited liability, they do not have any limit on the liability of the members. Whenever we discuss liability, we are only talking about liability of the member, not company. Company's liability is always unlimited. It is not that the unlimited liability company will have the liability always as unlimited. During the lifetime, members get to enjoy limited liability. It is only at the time of winding up that the liability becomes unlimited. What is the meaning of voting rights? It means right of the member to vote at a meeting or by postal ballot. I had mentioned in my earlier session, whenever the voting is by postal ballot, where you just post that paper or you vote electronically, meeting is not called. Okay, so there is no physical meeting because we want maximum participation. So we say that you vote from home. There is no physical meeting conducted or convened. We don't call it also. So members, they will get to vote either at any meeting, this is physical, or by means of postal ballot when there is no physical meeting. Now the word used is member. But is it equity or preference? See, the word member may include equity as well as preference, but who has the voting rights? Only equity shareholders. So here, for this particular section, preference shareholders are not referred as they do not have voting rights. They will get voting rights only when the dividend is not paid for 2 or more years. Other than that, they don't have regular voting rights, right? So here the member means the equity shareholder. We are not considering preference here. Okay, so preference shareholder is not considered here, as they have limited voting power. They can vote only in their meeting and only on resolutions which affect them as preference shareholder. So because they have limited voting power, they are not considered here. That member word here does not include preference. Alright, so guys, this was our chapter. I have a question for you. It's a very simple question. The company is registered with an authorized capital of 2 crores. Each share is of 10 rupees. Now the applications have been received for 10 lakh shares, but the company actually issued only 7 lakh. Called up is 8. Everybody has paid except the owners of these 6,000 shares. You have to decide what is the authorized capital. Tell me. Correct, 2 crores. What is the subscribed capital? How many applications were received? 1 crore. 10 lakh into 10. But how much was issued? 7 lakhs. Multiply by 10. What is the called up? On this 7 lakh, we called up 8 rupees per share, 56 lakh. But there are 6,000 shareholders, holders owning 6,000 shares who have not paid this. So out of 56 lakhs, we have not received 48,000. So this is my paid up capital. I don't think such a simple question will be asked in the exam, but this was covered in your module. Hence, I'm discussing. All right. So students, this was one question. This you can solve and try on your own. There is one question from the compiler, which we will discuss now. And that relates to this particular provision over here. Okay. So let us discuss that question also. Okay. So this is the question. ABC private company has 2 wholly owned subsidiaries, D Private Limited and E Private Limited. Are they related party? And we have discussed A, B, C and D are related party. A, B, C and E are related party. D and E are also related party. However, we will study now that an exemption is given to a private company. See, if you are a private company, only for section 188 related party transaction, D and E are not considered as related party. Okay. So, if you are a private company, then only for section 188, okay, whether they are related party transactions, they are not considered as related party. So this exemption is given to a private company that for section 188. Now, ma'am, are they related parties? Yes, yes, very much. They are related parties. But will the transactions be considered related party transactions? No. So there is a relation of related party that is going to remain. But for section 188, related party transactions, it's not in our syllabus. Will they be considered as related party for that section 188? No. That's the only exemption you need to remember. Will any application based question be asked? This is the only type of question that can be asked. There are two solutions given. I prefer the second one. So yes, they are related party because clause B says fellow is related party. Fellow subsidiaries are related parties. So yes, they are related party, but they will not be treated as related party for related party transactions. There is a separate section 188 related party transactions. So only for that section they will not be considered as related party. Otherwise they are related parties. I have also made a small note for it. XYZ Private Limited has two subsidiaries. So yes, they are related party. Fellow subsidiaries are related, but they will not be considered as related party only for section 188, that is related party transactions. So transactions between them is not related party transaction, but only for private company. So they are not related parties for section 188. However, if they have common directors, okay, if they have common directors, then they will be deemed to be related parties because section 2 clause 77, section 2 clause 76 subclause 4. Let's go there. Private company in which director is a member or director. Ma'am, show it from your note. That is better. Mr. X is a director in my company. Mr. X is a director in this private company. Director is common. Then they will be considered as related party. Are you getting me? Once again. Once again. A private company has two subsidiaries. They are related party. The relation is of related party. But will they be considered as related party for section 188 related party transactions? No. Only for that section 188, they are not related party. So transactions between them is not related party transaction. But what if they have common directors? Oh, they have common directors, then a private company in which the director is common, then this becomes related party. Yes. For Y also, Z is a related party because directors are common, no? If they have common directors, okay? So let's say that director X. Now, who is the company in consideration. Now, this company over here means this. Okay. So this is the company in question. This company and this company, they have common directors. So then they become related party. And the transactions are also related party transactions. Okay. So if they have common directors, then they are not, sorry, then they are considered as related parties, and forget this. Okay. Once again, they are two private subsidiaries. They are related party by relation, but will they be considered as related party for the transactions? No. But if they have common directors, then will they become related party? Yes. Okay. I hope it is clear. You can write this.